Ladies and gentlemen, Rex Bear Leak Project, how the heck are you? Have you ever heard of Skinwalker Ranch? Well, I've been there. It's in Utah, in the middle of nowhere. It's off of some Native American land, and it's eerie out there, folks. Well, this is a picture of it, and there's several concrete barriers there to keep the visitors away, the bystanders at bay. And this is owned by Mr. Bigelow. Yes, that's right. The aerospace executive that absolutely is convinced there are aliens on Earth. In an eye-opening interview on 60 Minutes Sunday night, aerospace mogul and entrepreneur Robert Bigelow said he was absolutely convinced there were alien visitors to Earth. You can read about this at either Yahoo or HuffPost. If you go to Yahoo, it's on the science section. I'll leave a video link in the description box of this video. And I'm going to read to you real quick. Well, first let's go to Mr. Bigelow's website. He goes, "We're going back. If initiated soon, a lunar depot could be in operation by 2021. Think beyond tomorrow." I like this guy's style. And if you've heard much about Skinwalker Ranch, there is a ton of paranormal activity that goes on out there, and there's a reason he is there. And when I went out to that location, I started rock climbing and free climbing this one area that would have given me a nice view had I gone to the top. But when you start seeing boulders fall down from above you, getting very close to your head that weigh hundreds of pounds, it's usually a good idea to turn around. So I wish this guy the best. I like how he goes, if we don't get there first, they will. And you know what's interesting is, as he says, sustainability is key. And that is absolutely true. Sustainability is key. And this guy doesn't want to get to the moon for just monetary purposes. As a matter of fact, this guy has spent more money in an attempt to explore the alien origins, the extraterrestrial origins, our space brothers, sisters, etc. What's out there? Who's out there? What do they want? What are they doing? And are they here? Why are they here? Well, let me read to you what he said real quick in 60 Minutes. Logan, the guy interviewing Bigelow. "Do you believe in aliens?" Bigelow says, "I'm absolutely convinced. That's all there is to it." Then Logan says, "Do you also believe that UFOs have come to Earth?" Bigelow, "There has been and is an existing presence, an ET presence, and I spent millions and millions and millions. I probably spent more as an individual than anybody else in the United States has ever spent on this subject." Logan goes, "Is it risky for you to say in public that you believe in UFOs and aliens?" Bigelow goes, "I don't give a damn. I don't care." Logan says, "You don't worry that some people will say, 'Did you hear that guy? He sounds like he's crazy.'" Bigelow says, "I don't care. It's not going to make a difference. It's not going to change reality of what I know." Well, I give that guy props. Bigelow, you're awesome, man. I hope you find him, and whatever you know, why don't you just tell us what you know? Because you're definitely in a hot spot of UFOs and alien and paranormal activity. Very incredible area, and I could feel the energy when I was out there. I had an opportunity to see one of the native police officers drive by and give me a very stern look as I waved at him, and I'm sure he could tell he probably knew what I was there for. He's like, "Oh yeah, another one of those X-Files guys. Give him a little bit of space unless he gets out of line." Well, I went up to this area, and I took several pictures of the area. You could see this one infrared / camera / chameleon-like camera setup. I'm sure he had more than one. And there's websites you can go to that talk about the different extraterrestrial activity and paranormal activity that goes on out there abundantly. And it reminds me of the people I talked to in Dulce, New Mexico, the natives out there that have lived out there their whole life. Every one of them that I talked to had an experience or multiple experiences of lights, paranormal stuff, flying saucers. You know, they didn't get into any underground bases or anything like that, but they did tell me some incredible stories, and people with very awesome positions out there in Dulce that you would look at and say, okay, I trust that guy, very honorable job. Yes, that person is trustworthy. Talking to me about when they were on top of the mesa as kids with their siblings, seeing lights that hovered over them for like half an hour on top of the mesa. And I'm going back out there when I got my drone and infrared stuff, you guys, and hopefully I can share some of the most amazing footage of all time out there. And maybe there is some type of underground base out there, because I'll tell you, the Mesa out there is the perfect candidate for that type of structure to be built underground. It's fascinating. So, obviously Bigelow wouldn't elaborate on what kind of results that he has achieved from the enormous amount of UFO extraterrestrial research that he's been doing for years. He's been strongly connected with the, residential amateur researchers as well in the paranormal. MUFON, Mutual UFO Organization, which I need to give a shout out to the guys here in San Antonio. They do a great job. MUFON San Antonio. One of these days I need to get to an event out there. I think they usually have them towards the end of the month at a Luby's in downtown San Antonio. Some neat people go to those events, and they're looking for the truth. And I'm looking for the truth. Aren't you looking for the truth? I mean, there's so many scriptures of antiquity that talk about UFOs and flying saucers and paintings in the Renaissance era that show these UFOs with light beams connecting to prophets. It's incredible. There's so much more than meets the eye, and people are becoming so dilapidated within their own ignorance and docile to what's around them that fortunately there's people like you that listen to Leak Project. I genuinely mean that. You guys are awesome. It's so nice to have a very powerful audience that's intelligent, thinks outside of the box, looks for dots that aren't within the typical 9 to 5 parameters of Mr. and Mrs. Jones, that are keeping up with Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, that are keeping up with Mr. and Mrs. Smith, all in this Borg-like mentality. As Trent Reznor would say, you can have it all, my empires of dirt, I will let you down, I will let you hurt. I used to think he meant selling his soul to the devil in that song, but after re-listening to it multiple times, there's a part in that song that makes it sound like he's talking about being addicted to heroin. So maybe by being addicted to heroin, that's how he sold the soul to the devil. Maybe it's both. Trent Reznor is one of the best entertainers, musicians, songwriters of all time, in my opinion, especially with the genre. Just far out. I mean, incredible. He takes it to the next level, or he has taken it to the next level so many times in his career. I give that guy some major accolades. Far out there. And hey, he's definitely a unique individual. And what do you think about that song that him and Bowie did, I'm Afraid of Americans? Have you heard that song? The lyrics in that song are pretty powerful. Definitely far out. And it's interesting because earlier today, I did a podcast on the Book of the Law. I actually read that in full, and I gave my analysis at the end, and people were like, man, why did you say that was why did you like that and say that was, why were you giving praise to Aleister Crowley? Far from it, folks, far from it. If you listen to the podcast, you hear me at the end say, how crooked and twisted and far out is this, talking about how people can't become anything different, they need to stay the same, and he talks about, first of all, if you get into the Book of the Law, it's supposedly an automatic writing of Aleister Crowley and his wife over a period of 3 days, where they summoned Aleister Crowley's guardian angel, which he called Iwas, which he also said people refer to as the devil, the Antichrist, the great beast, 666. And some people would say, oh, Rex, he's just a con artist, he's just a charlatan. Well, he may very well have been, yet he was such a good con artist and charlatan that you will see his blueprint throughout the Hollywood archetype industries. It runs amok throughout multiple films, and if you just look at the archetype of what he represented, very influential. Whether or not he was a con artist, whether or not he actually did do that via automatic writing. Now, I also looked at that as very dark and crooked and wicked. I mean, talk about war and plucking out the eyes of Jesus on the cross and blinding Muhammad with wings. Very dark stuff. So in no way, shape, or form was I saying that is, you should look at that as something good to do. As a matter of fact, the opposite. I was letting you know what the powers that be, those clandestine sorcerers behind the scenes, are doing right now. And that's why I said, whether you believe it or not, they do. And they have no mercy, just like that book, No Mercy. Now let's get back into the extraterrestrial phenomenon here for a minute. I divagated for a minute, but let's sync this together right now. What is the purpose of extraterrestrials that are here right now? And how many of them are here right now? From different places, what are the different agendas? And who has the most control? Who's at the apex? Or is nobody at the apex? Are they all fighting amongst each other, amongst us, and other factions that we don't see? Who's the apex controller? Now, divine source, you could say, sure, absolutely, I get that. Yet, has divine source kind of branched off and is letting things go on here to a certain level without its his or her interruptions, unless absolutely needed be by either calling out to divine source or based upon other purposes because of your life path and you being able to get to that point. Here's what I see. I see there must be different factions. I also see that at very high levels, whatever it is that's controlling things does not have our best interest at heart, does not have this planet's best interest at heart, and feels that it can actually travel the cosmos and just wipe out planets and just go to the next one. I mean, look at the enormous amount of deforestation that's going on every single year. The amount of honeybee colonies that are dying every single year. The amount of pesticides being sprayed into not only the ground, but the atmosphere, which is put into the water supply, the radiation, the chemtrails, which have depleted approximately 76% of the ozone, and they're still doing it. Think about that. 3/4 of the ozone's gone. Think about that for 10 seconds. Nanu, 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 nanu. 76% of the ozone is wiped out right now. There's 24% left. How much longer do we allow them to do this before there's nothing left? And then they say you must spend the rest of your life inside of a dome. Otherwise, you'll get scorched as you go outside. So you must wear specific protective gear. And then the rest of the planet gets wiped out. Then people start attacking each other because there's nothing left for food sources. And then the water evaporates, so people can't get to water. People can't get to food. Then what do? Those that survive. And then is it survival of the fittest and the wickedest? Or is it survival of the smartest and the strongest, the best prepared? Is it the survival of those that are being protected by higher forces? This is pretty wicked, folks. You really got to think about that when you get into the darkness of what is around you right now, abundantly. Instead of worrying about things that might be there all the time, I mean, it's great to put concern into things that might be there some of the time, but to always worry about something and not branch outside of that and get stuck in that box, that's when you start becoming a repeater, not a researcher. You're repeating something, you're not creating or producing. Leave it at that. Thank you for being here with me. Appreciate your support. Make sure to become a premium member at leakproject.com. I'm going to start doing live shows, ladies and gentlemen, on youtube.com/clandestine time lord. So, as a matter of fact, tomorrow, for those of you that do believe in Planet X, a brown dwarf star, a binary star system, Nemesis, Nibiru, the Winged Destroyer, I'm going to have Marshall Masters on the show with us, and he is going to share his latest intel and information, and he is offering a special for Leak Project listeners. So, there you go. Be the change you want to see, folks.